Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Oh, I love Tuesdays because we always get to talk about money, and I love that. So we're back, Ramin and I. Welcome to the show, Ramin. Today is our co host. I know you love being here too, right?
I do, and I'm so glad my second week back. So it's
Yeah, that's great.
wonderful to be
Well,
here.
yeah, you bet. Well, you're watching the Dr. Laurie Davis show, and I'm your host, and Ramin is our co host on Tuesdays. Well, we're really just both hosts. I don't know about the co part. And streaming live on E360 TV right now. Also on our Facebook page, Self Worth, the Missing Link Superstars, and we always have superstars on the show, and YouTube. So just search Lori Davis Show Host, and our shows come up there as well. So we've been doing some great chats, Ramin and I, about finances, and we looked at Ramin's 10 favorite money movies. And we looked at some financial behavioral psychology when it comes to investing. And today, Ramin has decided let's talk about some really good literature and books that we can find around investing, trading. And I have some of my favorites too that I've read that are not really about the technical side like you do, but we talked about it and we know that there's a balance there. So over to you, Ramin, to get us started. And I've got my notebook here. I always take notes. And if you're listening live today, please feel free to text in any comments or questions that you might have of us today. So over to you, Ramin. Let's get started.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Lori. It's always wonderful to be here. Yes, it is my favorite day, Tuesday. So glad to be with you. As you mentioned, we've talked about some of my favorite movies. We talk about athletes, and their behavior, why they don't make the right decisions, and we've talked about we mentioned about in psychology, behavior, finance. What is the purpose of money, for instance, and putting it all together. I think it comes to self-education and self-understanding of of who we are and what material we should use. And I'm old fashioned way. I love books. I mean, as a kid, I was just addicted to books. I loved reading, and I know people love Kindles, they like the Audible, which I do also, but that touch and feel of the books is something else. So, but even if you don't, you can listen to Audibles and uh, get a gist of it. But again, nothing is like books. And so I thought today would be a good idea to list some of my favorite books regarding investing, trading, and again, my other favorite subject is the psychology of all of these, because we can have that technical knowledge, but again, everything is up here and up down here. So basically, those are the ones who will guide us to better decision making. So those are the list will contain. And the other common thing you will see about a lot of these books are classics.
Oh,
Technology has improved, of course we have, but when you think about, let's talk about just the writing. We go back and the best writings are the classics, and that's what we learn from. And you will see the common theme again about these books. Majority of them show us that the human psychology and mind doesn't change over time. We still do the basic things, basic mistakes over and over, and we
oh,
try to learn from it, but it doesn't really stay with us. But I love, and you will see a common theme about these books. So let's start.
okay.
I'll start. Uh, I'll start with the investing and then the trading and the psychology, kind of a
Okay.
mixture of behavior, finance in there too. So uh, I share this with my students. The top two books I think is a must for every investor to have. And again, both are classic. The first one that I would recommend, it's not a big book, but it's a fascinating book. It is called the this reminiscence of stock operator. And by the way,
Can you
if
say that again? Can you say that again?
reminiscence, so it's REMINISCENCES. So
Reminiscence of.
reminiscence of a stock operator.
Okay.
Now, this book was written in 1923
Wow.
and continued as a complete different editions, but it is actually a fictional but a biographical life of Jesse Livermore. And Jesse Livermore was perhaps the greatest trader ever. And this is his life story. He went bankrupt 3 times. In his time, he made over $100 million. So when we think about
Whoa.
1900s, that's a lot of money.
Yes.
But this ups and downs of his life, he went broke 3 times. And believe it or not, in 1940, he committed suicide because he had lost everything. Although he had, he had his mansion, he went through the divorce, but actually a couple of divorces. But it's a fascinating life story, and it tells us about human nature, but also again a lot of trading skills and investing skills. So that will be my rule number one. My book number one. I'll tell again all my finance students. I say you got to read this, and it's a fun read, and you can listen to Audible as well because
So I have a question.
yes.
How old was he when he passed away? About.
He was born in 78, 1940. I think he was in his 60s, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. Yes, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was born in 1978, 1980, and he died in 1940. So either like
Oh,
late
meaning
50s or early
killed it. Yeah.
60s.
Okay.
Yeah. So, uh, young man, I mean, for us, no, but he just gave up because he loved success and he made big bets, and especially 1929 crash, he
All
made
right.
his biggest winning. He shorted the market and he took a big
Wow.
risk and he did it. So that would be one of the top two. The other one that it is more of an investing book is it, it's probably the father of security analysis, is called The Intelligent Investor, and that is written by Benjamin Graham, or Graham. Now, Ben Graham, if anyone is familiar with Warren Buffett, he was Warren Buffett's mentor and teacher
Oh,
and partner, or as a business as really leader. He, when we think about Geico, for instance, he took over
right.
what Benjamin Graham had done. So he is really the father of, when you think about financial analysis, security analysis. Without him, we probably wouldn't have had this, or maybe it will be much later. And as a matter of fact, he was the founder of the Security Analysts of Chicago, which eventually became the Chartered Financial Analysts, which is, we call it the CFA charter holders. So it really goes to Ben Graham. And he's the first one who came and talked about you can actually analyze the companies and the stocks and put value on them, or intrinsic value. So this book is a classic. It's might be a little heavy in the beginning for some like retail investors or new beginners, but it is a classic. And I really like there are many versions of that, but the one I have is the 1949 version, which the first edition. So imagine here, my top books are, one is 1923 it was published, and the other one's 1949.
Well, that was a
So,
very good year.
I agree. Tell us why, Dr. Laurie.
Oh, I think there was a baby girl born 1949, and yeah, it was a good
That's
year.
awesome. Yes, it was a good year. So these are the two books. Uh, what happened? Ben Graham also wrote another book with his partner, with, Dodd, and it's called Security Analysis. But that one is again, it's a wonderful book. It's very technical. So I would just leave it as a side notes. But these are my top two books that I would recommend. Speaking of Warren Buffett, any books written about him or his philosophy, it's kind of a must for especially for investors and long-term investors. So one of the best books written again about the Warren Buffett philosophy is the Essays of Warren Buffett. And this book is there's a I remember I became a shareholder a long time ago in Berkshire Hathaway, which was Warren Buffett's company. Main reason was his shareholders meetings and the notes. They are wonderfully written, and now every year he has it. I remember in the 1980s when he started, I think maybe 30 or 40 people attended his conference. Now it's like hot ticket, like Taylor Swift. I mean, people go online, and there's I think the capacity maybe is 3 or 4 thousand in his Omaha, Nebraska home, and people just love to go to his conferences. Of course, he is in his 90s now, and but it's a fascinating every year what he talks about. He looks at the overall economy, talks about really good lessons about life. And there's
Oh, wow.
actually it was a cartoon made for the kids about he played in that cartoon and giving advice about finances and money and investing. It's really cool. So, so anything written about Warren Buffett or his philosophy, or any written by him, again, the Berkshire Hathaway letters are great. So I would recommend that. So that would be another book that I would recommend. Um, the other book, again, remember, there's a tradition here. He goes back in history, so that's another classic. The fourth book I would recommend is called Common Stock, Uncommon Profits, and Other Writings by Philip Fisher. And Philip Fisher, this book, The Common Stock and Uncommon Profits, it was written in 1958. And again, another classic. Now, he looked at the companies. It's like really a good reading, again, going to understanding the business of the companies and how to look at the stock investing. Now, interesting part is he's passed away, but his son, Kenneth Fisher, he's quite often on TV. He's a Forbes writer. He's a fund manager. He's a very famous, and that's his son who follows his philosophy. But this is another good book for investing. Again, if you're serious about investing. So now another classic, and the things that I kind of grew up with him. My financial career was during his helm at a Magellan Fund, and the name of the book is One Up on Wall Street, and that is by Peter Lynch. Now, Peter Lynch became the probably most successful fund manager in the history. He managed Fidelity's Magellan Fund from 1977 till 1990, and I believe he averaged about 29% a year in that fund. And that fund became huge. It was just growing so much. It was like, if you think about mutual fund, you thought about Fidelity Magellan Fund. And then he retired. He was a very smart man in a sense that he retired pretty young when we think about investment world. And he's written this book, and this is a fun book to read for new investors to understand how a fund manager thinks about investing, going after the companies. A lot of common sense advice in this book. So it is kind of a good read and interesting read, but it's also a classic again. So that's then we go back to the valuation. This is a kind of a more of a newer book. It's by a hedge fund manager. The name of the book is Margin of Safety, and it is by Seth Klarman, Seth. Klarman is Klarman. He's one of the most successful hedge fund managers, and he looks at again the valuation of the stock and the market prices, and he looks at um, what is that the margin, how much the value of the company versus the stock. So
Mhm.
he was called actually a new Warren Buffett. So this
Oh,
is
wow.
another good book. So I would recommend that. Now, more on the lessons about investing and the human psychology in the sense of what goes in our mind, and it goes back to like 1929 crashes, and we think about internet bubble, the financial crisis of 2008. There's a book called The Great Crash 1929, and that was written by John Kenneth Galbraith, and he was an economist, and he was looking at he thought that speculation is the reason. Again, it goes back to greed. Speculation was the reason for all these bubbles and crashes. So that's another book that I think it will be I think uh, from understanding again human psychology, but also what makes us to do these things and why we push the
Mhm.
stock all the way to the limit. So that's another classic again. um, the other book I would say is someone that I had the honor of being in a book with him. The book is a small book. It's called The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. And
I like
that is
that.
by John Bogle, Bogle. Now, John Bogle, late John Bogle, was the founder of Vanguard Funds, which is the largest funds in the world. So it's the largest
Whoa.
funds in the bank. And John Bogle, unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago. But as I mentioned, I was fortunate. I was with him in a couple of conferences. We were interviewed for a book together, and a wonderful man. He was a pioneer in, we call it index investing. So this is another book I would recommend, and I think you would enjoy because it's not a big book.
What
Um,
was the title again? What was the title again? A
the
little
the
book. A little
book of
book of.
common sense investing.
Oh, got it.
So um, next, I will recommend more on the stocks and more of a combination of like technical and fundamental. This is someone I followed since 1980s. By the way, the books that I'm recommending, and these are the books that I've read, and so they could be other opinions, but these are the ones that I've found the most useful. And also, I found that a lot of fund managers, a lot of my colleagues have found them very helpful. So, and usually these are the top of the list of, again, must read. So, but these are the books that I found, again, interesting and useful for me. Um, so, the next book is How to Make Money in the Stocks. So that's simple, very straightforward. And that is by William O'Neill. Now, Bill O'Neill, he started Investors Business Daily in 1984, I believe, and he competed with Wall Street Journal. Till then, everybody reads Wall Street Journal. He was very data dependent, and he did analysis of all the successful stocks, used a lot of technical analysis, and he founded Investor Business Daily, which I've been a subscriber since 1985,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's almost 40 years now.
Hmm.
That's how much it's a wonderful paper if you ever want to analyze specifically, especially with the charts. It is wonderful, and this book is really good. It talks about the behavior of a very successful stocks, especially growth stocks, and this is a very good book if you want to get into stock investing. um, Now I'm going to move towards more on the human behavior. And this is a fantastic book if you want to look at it as a um, story of human mind and the psychology. So this book was written in 1840, and when we think about classic, I mean, this is a fantastic, again, from the psychological point of view, and as well as again, the human mind. The name of the book is Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowd, and that's by Charles Mackay. And this goes back to all the bubbles that we've had. Again, this book was written in 1840, and again, it's a fantastic read. You can listen it on Audible, but there's been many versions of this. There's different levels, but yeah. So, Extraordinary Popular Delusions and Madness of Crowd is the next book again. Um, Talking about the psychology, think about behavior finance. Now, this book is pretty thick. I think maybe 800 pages, 700 pages. It's uh, it's about behavior finance again of the humans, and it's called Thinking Fast and Slow. Thinking Fast and Slow is by Daniel Kahneman, which is Kahneman. He, it is a fascinating book about, again, the human mind and behavior finance. We've talked about that. We talked about our biases. This book goes really deep in the human biases. It is a thick book, so it is a long book, but it is going to become a classic. It's more of a newer book compared to other ones, but it is a good book. Talking about that, another interesting book is called The Black Swan. And The Black Swan was written by Nassim Taleb, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, which is Nassim. Taleb is Taleb. And that talks about the outliers. It talks about when the big events happen. That's why, we think about Black Swan. I mean, who would think? You never thought there's a Black Swan existing, but there is. And he talks about the events could lead to that. And big bubbles that have happened is because of that. So he's very much into probability. He's written a few other books. It's all about statistics and probability. But that's a good read. And again, I encourage my students read that book to go outside the box and see what could happen. How about risk management? And that's
Could you
something.
just, I'm sorry, could you just spell his name again? Because I didn't get
Sure.
all of it.
Is Nassim is Nassim. Taleb is Tal as Larry, EB is Bob. So Taleb. Again, any books by him, but this was his classic that when he wrote this. So continuing with that, I'm gonna go to more psychology, because what I think, in order to be a good investor and trader, you really have to have the management of um, yourself, your mindset, your thought process, and there's definitely a couple of books are a must for psychology of, again, mostly trading but also investing. The two books are by the same person, late Mark Douglas, and he was a fantastic human being actually. And the first book I would recommend is called Trading the Zone, and Mark Douglas is Mark Mark Douglas.
Trading the what?
The Zone.
Oh,
The
trading the
Zone.
zone.
So the whole idea is, so he became a commodity broker. He got out and he became a broker, and then he noticed this common things with all the traders. And one of the most important things is, like athletes, we go into the zone with our minds, and basically we want to uh, get ourselves to the point that things become really intuitive and unconscious, the things that we do. And it is a fantastic book. Unfortunately, he died too young. He died in a few years ago in his early 60s. He was just coming out with his fourth book, and unfortunately, demise. So I'm hoping that his wife is gonna publish his book. Well, he almost finished, I think, this was happening, when he passed away. So hopefully, we will have that book out. But this trading the zone is a must again for any investor or trader. Now, his second book, which is actually his first book, this book came before Trading the Zone. Again, a lot of brokerage firms and trading firms, they encourage their traders read this. It's called The Disciplined Trader. So The Disciplined Trader, again, that's by Mark Douglas. It goes really into depth of things and how to, again, the mind works. And there's a lot of great lessons, and it was actually in early 1990s that was published. So that's one book I would recommend. So uh, the other thing I would say is about trading. So anyone who uh, wants to get into the trading, it's not, unfortunately, the impression that we have is almost like gambling. You watch it YouTube, you follow a social media, and you think, oh, I got some money, let me go, I'm going to be a good trader, whether it's like in options or futures or even stocks. You want to be in and out. It's like, oh, I can double my money at no time. And people don't realize that trading is actually a business. You have to approach it as a business. You have to look at it as, you have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy. You have to have some way of the risk management and control of your risks. So basically, what happens is, again, it is not gambling. It's not going to Vegas and just put a bet. And most
Right.
people, but most successful, if you look at the poker players, blackjack players, or baccarat players, or they actually have a strategy. They know exactly what they're going to do. They walk in there. They know what is their target. They know what is their exit strategy, how much they afford to lose. But the casinos are, some of the most beautiful buildings and other places in the world are owned by casinos for a reason, because they thrive at that human greed, and people just walk in there, they think they're having fun, and they get out by they get one free drink and lose thousands of dollars, and they think they
Yeah,
had a
right.
good time. So the trading is a business. So few books that I found out, and it is again a must, you want to definitely read. This book came out in 1988, and the name of the book is Market Wizards. Market Wizards um, is a collection of interviews with some of the most successful traders in stocks, options, futures, psychology. And this was written by Jack Schwager. And Jack Schwager started that, and then he continued with a series of books. We do have the Market Wizards 2, or the New Market Wizards. I mean, the New Market Wizards. We have the Stock Wizards. We have Hedge Fund Wizards. I mean, he's written quite a few, but this is the best. I would definitely recommend um, Market Wizards as a someone who wants to get into the trading business. Continuing with that, is we talked about again the trading as a business. There's another book which is like a classic again. It's by Dr. Alexander Elder, and it's called Trading for Living. And Trading for Living is, again, came out in the early 1990s. And Dr. Elder was a psychologist who escaped Russia, or at that time was Soviet Union, on a ship. He hid in the ship, and he was by trade he was a psychologist. Obviously, he wasn't making much money. Everything was controlled. So he left. He wanted to have a better life, and he came to New York, again hidden in a ship. And he got there, and he just thought trading is wonderful. And so he's a psychologist by trade, but this book, Trading for Living, and he's got New Trading for Living, Exit Strategy. He's written quite a few books. He has a big following. He has his own site, and does his own training and other things. But this is there's a New Trading for Living, which is more updated, but this is a classic. So that's again about the trading. Um, Another book, the tradings, again, I really enjoyed. It was early 1990s, late 80s actually. It's called Trader Vic.
Trader
And
what?
Vic, Vic. Well, his
Oh,
name is Victor, so that's what
got it.
Trader Vic is. And
Okay.
it is a fascinating of being in the exchanges and the pit as a trader, what you go through. So you've watched, for instance, the movie Wall Street or Wall Street 2, all the movies like Trading Places. So this is real life. And he goes, oh, the Wolves of Wall Street and all of those. But these are real people that, that talks about his life and the trades that he takes. So the book is written by Victor Esperando and Esprandio, and um, he's still around actually. So this
Is
is he's
he?
been around to 1980s. So it is a fascinating book. Um, so basically from that, if you want to get more specific, when you get to technical, if people want to look at the relationship between the assets, I would recommend, it might be a little next couple of books might be a little heavy, but they're very useful. One book is called Intermarket Technical Analysis. And as you know, technical analysis is one of the ways that we analyze. Um, Again, it's the human psychology in a sense of looking at the price and volume and look at the history of things, how people behaved at certain price. So that's what the technical analysis. Most people might look at it, think of it as charts. They look at the graphs and charts, and so this was written by John Murphy. John Murphy was one of the really famous, more newer technician, but he's still around. But he was a regular host in original CNBC, and I met him a few times, and he started 1980s, and he's a technician. So the name of the book is Intermarket Technical Analysis, and that is by John Murphy. Now, another book, if you want to get more specific again, like on option trading, there's tons of option trading, and I'm very big on options because they are very much math oriented. It's not random. You can control. So in our classes, we emphasize a lot about different strategies and techniques using options, which options by themselves mean nothing. They're derived of something, and generally of assets, so that they derive from basically stocks or commodities, or they're derived from ETFs. And so by themselves, they don't have value, but it's very mathematically oriented. So the classic for option trading is Macmillan on Options. Macmillan on Options, written by Lawrence Macmillan, and Lawrence Macmillan is really the guru of option trading, and uh, his knowledge is amazing. So that's another book I would recommend. It's like more of specific things. So I'm gonna end this by talking about specifics. Um, People who are interested in currencies and understanding of like forex market. One of the fun things that I found out is written by Ashraf Laidi. It's called Currency Trading and Intermarket Analysis. There are few books written on forex. Unfortunately, they are more of a these books are written more on the marketing side. So a lot of books are written. They come as like really informative book. Unfortunately, they're full of fluff, and that really gets under my nerves. I got, I probably have about 5,000 books. I've read many books, and perhaps majority of these books, when they come out, you can summarize the whole book in like 5 pages. Yeah, it is like 300 pages just to make
No.
themselves feel good and also justify for the 29.99 or 19.99 that you're paying. And
Right.
it is a shame. So there's tons of books on investing and more so on forex, on the currency trading. You will find quite a few books that they come out and it's just a repeat of the same thing over and over and over. And by the time you finish, you say, well, they could have just written one page and just send it to me. And unfortunately, that's what happened. So this book that I mentioned with Ashraf Laidi, he's a long term. He's based in London. Um, that's a more in depth, more of a uh, fundamental understanding of the currencies rather than just read this book and then subscribe to my website or come
Yeah.
to my classes. So those are unfortunately things that it happens, especially with all the technological advancements, the social media. It's a lot easier. You get
Right.
bombarded with so much free information nowadays. So in a nutshell, I think we had probably about 20 books or so, if I'm not mistaken, 18 or 20 books. I thought to share them with you. Um, Again, if anyone is interested, if you'd like to, you can email me and I will send you the list. And if you want more information, I'll be more than happy to share more. But these are the books that I've really enjoyed. There's more books on international investing. One of my favorite uh, commodities, for instance, investor is Jim Rogers. Now, Jim Rogers was a partner of George Soros in quantum funds, hedge funds in 1970s, and that was probably one of the most successful hedge funds. And George Soros, they went on their own. They became independent of each other, but George Soros is still, famous. George Soros is the one who they say broke the back of Bank of England, for instance, in 1992, if I'm not mistaken, and he shorted the British pound and single-handedly almost brought the pound down. He was playing, Deutsche Mark and Euro and with British pound. And he made
Mhm.
about $1 to $2 billion in that trade, and that's a lot of money in the early 1990s. So Jim Rogers went a different route. He's more of a commodity and a big picture investor. And one of his books is The Investment Biker. He took the bike, went around the world on his bike, and he has fascinating stories. He's an international, really knows about the whole world, and I love his stories. And he's based in Singapore, and he was one of the first pioneers who really encouraged people investing in China, for instance. The second time he went with his new wife, they drove in this special Mercedes and went around the world. I mean, they drove from Africa to Central Asia, and they have experiences in each country. And he shares his suggestions why you should invest in this country, what commodities. So
Oh, cool.
I've
Yeah.
met him, and a very fascinating guy. And so that's on the international side. There's a lot of other stories we can share, but on the big picture, I think the investment books that I mentioned, they should be helpful. And as I said, if you cannot get the books or read it, you can use Audible. A lot of people now, because of time or they want to walk around, Audibles are good. But I still love books, and I think the feel of the book is something else. So
Mhm.
anyway, so
Cool.
that's in a nutshell our
Mhm.
recommendation, or just sharing my experiences.
Right. Well, I wrote them all down. I shall tackle them one at a time
Wonderful.
because in my world, I didn't think about, well, I should go and read a technical book about what to do with money that I earn. And, but I was very big on buying the soft side, as usual, of finance. So when a book came out about money, like Bob Proctor wrote a little book, it's not about the money.
Yes.
It's not about the money. And he wasn't teaching us, financial principles like you do, but it helps to change that mindset that you talked about earlier, to take us out of that poverty mentality into possibility thinking and abundance. Another sequel that I bought in 2003, I bought The 1 Minute Millionaire by Mark Victor Hansen and Robert Allen. And actually, Robert Allen is from Alberta, my home province. And they wrote a second book, Cash in a Flash. And then they wrote a third book, Cracking the Millionaire Code. So these were all books about how to get ourselves thinking that it's okay to have money, it's okay to deserve money. I read another book called Smart Women, Smart Money. And of course, we all read The Wealthy Barber, The Millionaire Next Door. Anytime there was a book about those things, I bought it. But now I never gave any thought. What you've done now is awakened me to realizing that if I want to know the how to and what, we don't have to ever reinvent the wheel. Other people have done it before us,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right. And with a lot less. So I appreciate that list. That's amazing. And no wonder you know so much. You're not only formally educated, you're self-educated as well, right? So what a great combination for us to have that information right here at our fingertips every Tuesday when we're both in the country.
Yes.
Yeah. So even if somebody starts with those soft skill books that I'm talking about, I see that as, because some of those principles that you're talking about when you do the behavioral side of things, those are in those books. You know, um, the difference between having a poverty mentality versus a prosperity mentality, and fits in nicely with those biases that you shared very early in our series. So that was a great show. And if you want to go in, you can go into E360 TV, and all of our shows are archived there. So just click on the Tuesday show with Ramin, and it'll take you back if you missed some of the other ones that you've done. So thank you for that. That was amazing. Can't wait to see what you come up with next. And as Ramin said, he offered to send out the list, or if there's some things, he has lots of products that he offers, complimentary to you, slides and such. Do you want to talk a little bit about that so people know what we mean by that?
Yeah. So,
Somebody wants to sample. Let's say if somebody wants to sample, um, how many podcasts have you done? How many presentations have you actually done?
we have a collection of, in our website, in our group, we have a collection of about 600
I
podcasts and
know.
videos.
Wow.
And there are more, actually, they are uh, specific subjects and
Right.
technical aspects, but also we talk about the psychology, we talk about the business planning, but also every Saturday we analyze the markets, and we've done it. We have uh, archived of about 4.5 years of analyzing the markets. When we look at the markets, we are not just looking like a stock market. We look at from crude oil to gold to cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. We talk about commodities, but we also have lessons. We talk about economy. We talk about earnings and the trades and different ideas. So it's a full hour. So we've done that. We have archive of those. So
So what's your website? And I can put it up on a banner.
it's rmsmartinvesting.com. So which is RM, and then smart investing. And
Let's put that up. Yeah, so just go into the website, and there's lots of information in there. And also, too, I think we should put a plug in for our project that we've been working on diligently for the last few months.
yes.
And our classes are starting up next Tuesday, but you can register anytime. And we're doing a project, 100 workshops in finance. 50 of them will be coming from Ramin and his area of expertise, which is the technical side of finance. And my 50 workshops came directly out of a product that I had already developed called Money Matters. And it's 50 workshops which help us to change our relationship with money. Because a lot of us have not had the mentoring. Perhaps we didn't grow up in a wealthy home. We don't have the necessary information to manage our own portfolios, all of those things. So we're starting up, and if you want more information about that, you can contact me directly or text me if you want more information about the workshops that we're going to be doing, all 100 of them. So you will be under our mentoring wings for a year. And I would say, what are a couple of things that people can expect on the outcome? I mean, because we talked about how important that is for our people to know that. So we have we've got about 8 or 9 minutes left. So why don't I turn the mic back to you to just give us a little, because I am certainly going to be sitting in your workshops as a student. So be prepared. And uh, over to you for just, what are some things, some goals we have in mind for people by offering this amazing opportunity for education.
No, absolutely. I think uh, we are looking at this again very much concentrated in the area of uh, basically not only just the education, but money and investing and trading and understanding the world economy. We talked about intermarket relationship of the assets. Uh, but the application, the whole bottom line is the implication and application of that knowledge. So we are looking at it, this is actually trading in action. And it is it's almost like you're going to school, not just going to get a degree with a certificate. You actually, let's say you're becoming a doctor and you actually working in your business. So this is really starting uh, from the business point of view. It's the end results is you understand actually how the markets work, whether it's the currency or the futures market or stock market or options. And first of all, by understanding that, it gives you the confidence. And once you have the confidence, confidence is a very interesting, I would say, drug in a sense. I mean, it is an enhancer, and it brings the right type of confidence. And again, we're doing with the right tools, you become competent. And once you're competent, then you make the right decisions. And that's where again your skill set comes, the soft skills. So that's imagine having all the technical tools, and we also know that we are not going to self-sabotage ourselves. We are going to learn the discipline, but when the time comes, we're not going to brush it off and say, this time is going to be different, or my big brother or my dad or my mom told me something when I was 11 years old that I'm going to add up to nothing. All of a sudden, in the middle of the whole thing that you put together, you sabotage yourself. And that's what we will be working on, the soft skills side of things. But the bottom line is, I like, our audience visualizing themselves a year from now, that actually they're sitting in a platform with the right tools and the right knowledge, but also right belief system, that they are a successful investor or trader, and they're profitable. I mentioned last time, about 95% of the traders fail, 90% of them within 3 months. And within a
Oh,
year, they're out of business. So basically, really, 3% they stay afloat and 1% become really successful. And one of the reasons, and I think that's also important, and I mentioned these books for a reason, is because we are always looking for that holy grail, that magic pill that makes us the smartest, or not only smart, the smartest, or most successful. We like the shortcuts. And what happens, unfortunately, again, with the abundance of the, the, those educational material out there through social media, or again, any type of online information, we're getting bombarded, so we never stick to one thing. We constantly, so we have tons of these information coming at us, but we do not put them all together. So one day we learn a strategy, we use it for a few times, and then once it doesn't work, we want to jump to something else. And that's human behavior. Imagine, and I know this has been many times example of, if a child just keeps falling down, we just change the strategy and move to something, and then they're going to walk on their hands this time, or they're going to roll, or no, we stick, eventually all of us are walking. Majority of us have the
right.
capability of walk, but we have to have that discipline, but also the right guidance. And I think that's what, our audience, or, people who will join us will learn. But the beauty of this, again, is that the technical side gives us hopefully all the knowledge that we need, and the soft skills from your side is gives us that belief system that we are deserving. And one last thing I will say is, as far as, there's a lot of saying, we talk about self-worth, net worth. you know Self-worth brings net worth, but net worth does not bring self-worth. I know
Right.
many poor millionaires out there, and
Mhm.
some of those millionaires used to be billionaires. So that tells you, just because you have $1 billion, and you just mentioned about, our upbringing, there are some of the most successful traders, investors, business people. They actually come from poverty.
Yes.
So they have broken through that. And a lot of immigrants become very successful when they move to a new country, and they come from really nothing. It's just because of that belief system. So I think that's when they understand their value, their self-worth, and it increases their net worth, not the other way around, in my opinion. Um,
Absolutely. I agree totally. You bet. So we're excited. Next week, our first class gets together, and we're looking forward to growing that because we also know that wealth plus health equals happiness. And there's only one letter difference in those two words. I've noticed that a long time ago. But I would like to make a comment, an observation. I made an observation while you were sharing your books, and it's blowing me away that not one woman is an author of a financial classic textbook. Isn't that interesting? But historically, we know why, and we know understand the reasons. So maybe someone out there that's listening today, some female who's really smart and has the experience, might consider writing a book for women as far as how that impacts us from an investment perspective. And so I would encourage that, wouldn't you? I know you would.
Oh, absolutely. But the encouraging part is, Dr. Laurie, you're absolutely right, and that goes to our tradition. And things are changing. And I've said it, I think before. I've worked, on boards with women and women traders by far, and they're much more successful. And thankfully, we do have few of them now in this, day and age.
Awesome.
So it's wonderful. They're very focused. They manage risk much better than men, but they still very few.
Mhm.
It's not accepted, but it's getting much better. And
Yeah.
again, working with finance students, I can see, like MBA students, we're getting more. but we are not there yet. It's just that
Right
belief
on.
system. We got to change that. So
Right
yes,
on.
absolutely.
There's probably more female welders than there are financial experts. Here in
Well,
my neck of the woods, anyway. All right. Well, our time is up. This is the
wow.
fastest hour of my
All right.
day. Every day, this is the fastest hour. And we're going to have recorded shows tomorrow and Thursday because of commitments that I have. But on Friday, Prince Fleet Easton and I are going to do a live show. And he's done all the research. And we're going to talk about Johnny Cash.
Ah,
And maybe Johnny Cash should be on our show. Um, but it'll be a fun show because we found out some fun facts about Johnny Cash that, most people wouldn't know, and talk about his career, his singing career, his film career. I watched an old movie the other night, not expecting to find him in the movie. I didn't know he did movies. That was something new for me. I thought he was just a singer. So remember, the only thing we ask is that you share the show, and just, one person, if they saw our show today and could benefit from this information, then I believe we all have a moral obligation to share good information. We have no problem sharing the bad information. So let's get cracking. And you can go into YouTube and you can share the show by email, Facebook, social media, whatever. So we'd appreciate it if you would do that. So on behalf of my esteemed colleague and myself, we wish you a great day. And we'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same station.
yes.
Right?
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah. Have a wonderful week. Bye now.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.